Hi there, we're talking about using the percent equation, topic 3-2. Instead of using the equation, I would like to also say that we're really using a proportion here. I think the proportion is the easiest way for us to organize our information. There are many different ways to solve percent problems, so I understand if you have another way that might seem easier. If you are consistently getting your answers correct using that method, that is fine to use it, but just know that when I show my work in class, I'm going to be using a proportion, so it's easier to follow along if you use a proportion as well. So the proportion that we're going to be talking about is the percent of tax, and percent means out of 100, so it'll be over 100, equals the amount of tax divided by the price of the item. Okay? Item, sorry. So the tax, the percent tax and the amount of tax are directly across from each other in our percent proportion, so they are saying the same thing. One is a percent, but one end is a number. So you can also think of that the amount of tax is the part, and the price of the item is the whole. So this does relate back to what we were talking about in 3-1 with whole and part. So in the box it says sales tax on an item is a percent of the item's price. Find the total price by adding the sales tax to the item's price. So sales tax is added on to whatever you're paying for the price. The store is not going to subtract the sales tax, they're going to add the sales tax on. So our first question here says that a soccer team is having dinner at a restaurant to celebrate their winning season. The frazzled waiter gives them an incomplete bill. Help the team fill in the missing amounts. Looking over at the check, I see that they've given me a subtotal, but they do not have the tax amount or the total amount that they would owe. So what we're going to do is we set up a proportion. They need to find a 5% tax on our subtotal. So this is going to be the percent tax. Across from that would be the amount of tax. These labels are really important so that we can organize the information, because it's really not necessarily how we get the answer, it's being able to organize and understand what they're doing. So percent tax, the amount of tax, and then this would be the subtotal or the sales price so far. So the percent tax they gave us right here was 5%. So I put 5 and then I've divided it by 100 because 5% is the same thing as 5/100. The amount of tax is what I'm looking for. That's my part, so that's why I'm using the letter Y. And the subtotal is 142. Since I do not have a number that I can multiply by 100 to get 142, I am going to cross multiply to solve for Y. So cross multiplication means I'm multiplying these two numbers together and these two numbers together and setting them equal. So I will have 100Y equals 5 times 142. So now I've gone from a proportion, this is my proportion, to an equation. So I'm solving an equation right now. So the first thing is to simplify the equation, and it's asking for me to multiply on the right-hand side. So 5 times 142 will give me 710. Then I need to isolate the variable by dividing by the coefficient that's in front of the variable, and I will get, I'm sorry about that. Hold on. Of course. Let's see, I will get $7.10. So if you go back and look here, we just solved for Y. Y equals $7.10. Well, if I go back up here, you don't have to draw these arrows, but just showing you that Y was the amount of tax. So I just calculated the amount of tax, which is $7.10. To find the total amount, I will take my subtotal and add on the $7.10 to give me a total of $149.10. That should be a plus sign, sorry about that. So I've now filled in those two boxes to give me $149.10. Moving on to example number 2, they're talking about how tips are calculated similarly. I always have trouble with that word. So tips are calculated similarly to taxes. So tip is being added on just like tax is being added on. Suppose the team brought a total of $175 to pay for dinner. Do they have enough money to tip the waiter 18% of the subtotal? So if we look, they've given us the subtotal. They have given us the tax, which we already calculated previously, and now they've given us the total. So they're giving us actually five numbers, if you really look carefully. I've got a 5% here, I've got an 18% in my question, and I also have a total of $175. So now this is where it's really important that I make sense of all of the numbers. So if I brought $175 to pay for dinner, the restaurant's not going to charge me a tax on the amount of money that I brought. So the $175 is something that I'll be using at the end. So they're asking, can they tip 18%? So that sounds like that's what they want to tip, 18%. So that's the percent tip. And then across from that again would be the amount tip. Notice I'm filling in the descriptions before I'm actually filling in the numbers. And then because it says 18% of the subtotal, not the total, I want to make sure that the whole is my subtotal. They're saying that they're tipping without tipping on tax. So they're not including the 5% tax in there. So the 18% tip would be 1800ths. The amount of tip, again, we don't know what they want to leave as a tip, but we do know the subtotal is $142. Again, I can't multiply anything by 100 to get 142, so I will cross multiply. So I'm going from a proportion to an equation. So I'll have 100y equal to 2,556. I'm isolating my variable by dividing by 100, and that will give me $25.56. And again, I solve for y, which is the amount of tip. So I now need to know, do they have enough money? Well, I know that the amount of tip now that they want to leave, I'll have to add that on to the total bill. So I'll have $149.10 plus the $25.56 to give me a total of $174.66. So yes, they have enough money to pay. I'd like you to flip the paper over and go ahead and take a minute and read that paragraph that is there, because this is really important information. And pause the video. Okay? So commission is similar to tax and tip, except for this time it can merely be added or subtracted. It really depends on what the question's asking you for you to do. But a commission is still a percentage. Commission can be a way that you are paid. You can either be paid by commission alone, you could be paid by salary alone, you could be paid by hourly wage alone, or you could be paid with a salary wage and a commission together. So if there's anything about commission you don't understand, please be sure to ask me about it in class. With proportion, it's going to be very similar, except we're going to replace the words percent commission and amount commission. So please take the time to write this down on your paper. And you also need to see that this time in the denominator, we're still considering this is our part and this is our whole. But I want you to see that the description that they're using instead is selling price. So question number 3 says that at a car dealership, a car salesman is trying to sell a car to his client. That's his job. He wants to sell cars. His commission rate is 6%. How much would the car salesman earn, and how much would the dealership make on the car? So 2 separate questions. Well, the price of the car, that's the whole amount. That's the selling price. So I set up my proportion, and I'm putting percent commission and then amount commission directly across from it. These words really will come into play as we move further along in our percent topic. I know that the percent commission is 6%, so 6 divided by 100. And I know that the selling price in the car is $16,800. So again, I'm looking for the part. Now at first you might say to yourself that you can't go from 100 to 168 by multiplying by a number. but you actually can. If you were to pick up your calculator and put 16,800 and divide it by 100, you would get 168, which means that to go the other way, you would multiply by 168 to get your answer. So all you would have to do here is also multiply by 168. Or go back to cross multiplying like we did in the two previous questions. So now I'm just doing 6 times 168, which will get me an answer of y is 1,008. So that represents what the car salesman earns. So the dealership is actually the one that's going to get all $16,800. But because they have to pay their salesman a commission rate of 6%, you have to take the selling price of the car, the $16,800, and subtract the $1,008 that you're going to pay the salesman to get how much the dealership would earn, and you're going to get $15,792. So that's what the dealership earns. Number 4 is extremely similar to number 3, except for we're dealing with a much larger number this time, and we're talking about a real estate agent getting a commission rate. So I'm going to ask for you guys to try this question on your own. When you come back, it'll be all set for you. Okay, so this time we're still finding a percent commission. The selling price has changed and the percent commission rate has changed. So the percent commission is 3%. The selling is $345,000. So the agent will get $10,350. The only way that the agent will be paid is from the person that is selling their house. So the person that's selling their house that gets $345,000 now has to pay the agent out of that money. So we're subtracting the $10,350 from there to get that the sellers will actually make $334,650. Number 5 is similar to question number 4, but there's a couple different things they're throwing in here. So they're saying that Taylor has a new sales job at a clothing store, and she's given 2 options for how to be paid. She plans to work 4 hours per day, 5 days a week. She also estimates that she can sell about $200 worth of clothing per day. So which option would give Taylor more earnings per week? So if we read through the 2 choices on the right, that option A is an hourly wage of $7.15, and that option B is a commission of 18% on the total sales, we now have to go back through the question and decide what information goes with option A and what information goes with option B. So I'm highlighting in purple the information that I think goes with option A because that box is in purple on the notes. So if she plans to work for 4 hours, 5 days a week, that sounds like something I would need for my hourly wage. So this is the one in purple. But then it goes on to say that she also estimates that she can sell $200 worth of clothing per day. I think that would go with option B. So now we need to make sure we show our work for both options. Option A, if she makes 4 hours a day, so 4 hours a day, and if I'm thinking about conversions, I would multiply times 5 days a week. Now I can cross cancel my days, and I'm left with 20. The units left are hours per week. So if she works 20 hours per week, you take her hourly wage of $7.15 per hour, multiply that by her 20 hours per week. Again, I can cross cancel those units, which leave me with $143 per week that she will earn. So that's kind of a throwback to topic 1. Option B is now a commission question. So if I set up my proportion, this is the percent commission, which is 18%. This would be the amount of commission, which I'd be looking for in this case. Then this would be the selling price. So the information they gave me in the question says that she's going to sell $200 worth of clothing per day, but how many days is she going to be at work? 5, so I actually have to borrow from information from the purple to do 200 times 5 to get me that she's planning on selling $1,000 worth of items. So that is our now selling price. And again, we're looking for our amount of commission. Well, to go from 100 to 1,000, you just have to multiply by 10. So I'll just multiply by 10 here, and so I'll get y is 180. So she'll earn $180 a week in option B, and then option A, she would earn 143. So option B looks like it would be the more earnings. So be really careful with this question, because there will be some on the homework where they say, how much will she need, what will her percent be when to earn the same amount? What she earns is her amount of commission. So sometimes you might be looking for the commission rate, so you'll have to insert some information into the amount of commission. Okay, thanks again for watching. Again, if you have any questions, please make sure to see me either lunch, study hall, 2nd, 5th, or 8th period, or after school on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Thanks for watching.